Recently we have been excited by various reviews of Starlink internet services that can reach speeds of over 200 megabits per second and can reach remote areas. So, what is the difference between Starlink and the internet we usually use? Is Starlink better? Could Starlink replace our internet service globally? In this video I will explain what Starlink is. Starlink is an internet service like cable internet or cellular internet that we usually buy quotas for. But what's different is that data communication on Starlink is from users directly to satellites, so it can be used anywhere. So the picture is like this: cellular internet uses a transmitter tower as a gateway to the internet. So we just need to connect the cellular network from the cell phone to the transmitter tower using a quota. If the internet is cable, then the internet gateway comes from a fiber optic cable that is installed to your home and then connected to a router so that we can then access it from a cell phone via a Wi-Fi signal. While on Starlink, the internet gateway is a satellite that we can access using a receiver device. This receiver is then connected again to the router so that we can access it using Wi-Fi. So Starlink is almost the same as cable internet. The only difference is the internet gateway. So, is Starlink better than other internet services? Actually, if we talk about satellite internet, it has its pros and cons. As we know, this satellite is located above the atmosphere, generally at a distance of over 1,000 kilometers. So the distance from the satellite to the receiver is very far. The long distance makes data communication from the receiver to the satellite and back to the receiver take a long time. And this makes the latency or ping very low, and the internet speed is also slow. So, why can Starlink penetrate up to 200 megabits per second? The answer is because the location of the Starlink satellite is quite low, which is around 500 kilometers. With a low distance, data communication can be much faster, so the internet speed is also fast. However, placing the satellite in a low position also has its challenges. The closer the satellite is to the Earth, the greater the gravitational effect. And just so you know, the satellite does not fall to Earth because it is held by the centripetal force generated when the satellite orbits. The faster the satellite orbits, the greater the centripetal force. Well, then the relationship when the satellite location is low, then the satellite orbit speed must be accelerated to exceed the rotation of the Earth to keep the satellite from falling. However, because the satellite orbit is faster than the rotation of the Earth, the signal transmitted by the satellite is not fixed in an area. So when the satellite shifts, the area will also lose the signal from Starlink. That's another problem, and it turns out the solution to the problem is no less astonishing. The Starlink satellites are not just one or two, but there are thousands. You can check here. There are almost 6,000 satellites orbiting the Earth to date. With that many satellites, it creates like an internet network that covers the entire surface of the Earth, so that every area will definitely be radiated by the Starlink signal even though the position of the satellite changes. That's what makes the internet speed fast, and the latency or ping is still good. And if you ask whether this Starlink internet uses a subscription or is it just a one-time purchase? Of course, this is a subscription like a cable internet service, because infrastructure such as satellites that number in the thousands also need maintenance, and there must be operational costs, and the ones who bear the operational costs are the customers through subscriptions. However, that does not mean that this Starlink internet is definitely better than cable internet. Internet that uses satellite signals is also affected by the condition of the sky above the receiver. So if there is an object that interferes above the receiver, or maybe the weather is bad, it can affect the quality of the signal it receives. Speeds of more than 200 megabits per second are provided that the sky is clear without obstacles. If there is something that interferes with the signal, then the speed can be lower. While wired internet is more weatherproof, it will be disrupted when the cable is disconnected. And although the speed of wired internet is not as fast as Starlink, the latency or ping can be higher, which is under 10 milliseconds. That's information about what Starlink is and how it works. Hopefully it can increase our insight